Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 31 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and Soundcloud, now topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. To catch updates about the podcast or for other news, give us a follow on your social media platform of choice, listed in the description below. I'm your host, GM, and overseer of Podcast of Five Rings, Obsidian. Joined tonight by the wall. Well, not fall, Tetsuo.
I'm here this week.
He's here. He's not sick anymore. He was dying.
It's horrible.
It was that taint, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens, man. You gotta, vet your ice. Make sure there's not the Oni eggs inside of it. It'll get you every time.
Every time.
First time it happens, you won't make the mistake again. You know those little black specks in your ice on the little
Oh my
That's
god,
what it is.
dude.
Those are called your pupils.
Good god.
As the Dark
Nothing
Fortune
secret.
Duelist meta.
Yar.
He's a pirate today. Talk like a pirate day was like 3 months ago.
Arr. Yeah, it was. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. Right up there with Donut Day and I don't know, the other awesome thing called it.
Day.
Man, free Donut Day is the bomb.
You know, I never ever take advantage of those stuff. Like, talk like a pirate day. I'll always say yar every now and then, but I never actually go to any place that's having deals. Like, if you talk like a pirate or you wear something like a pirate, you can get something for free. I never take advantage of any of those things.
No one around me does that. That should be like a seafood thing.
The only one that I do is World Whiskey Day.
See, I don't even know. World of Whiskey. It sounds like World of Wills or something like that.
Wait,
World
Whiskey Day?
Whiskey. Yeah, so world whiskeys are like any whiskey that's not Scotch or distinctly American, like Canadian, Japanese. Those are all like your world whiskeys. And there's a day, World Whiskey Day. I forget which day it is. I think it's
It's
May.
World. WHIRLED.
No. WORLD.
Okay, World. Okay. I was about to say, what is a World Whiskey?
World. And a lot of liquor stores will have huge discounts if it's a world whiskey as opposed to a Scotch or a bourbon or something like that. So that's the only one of those type of things I take advantage of is the World Whiskey Day, and it's in May.
I should do that. I had no idea.
Yeah, not
I
everybody
love me
does
a
it,
good whiskey.
Yeah.
but I don't know if these two store chains are around y'all, but ABC and Total Wine both do it. So
Man,
No, we don't get.
whiskey is very much a you cannot go cheap on your whiskey or it is god awful.
No.
you can. Yes, you can. Yes,
No,
you can.
but you shouldn't.
You can,
There's
but
some-
man,
You can, but you shouldn't.
There's some good. Well, okay. Let me rephrase. Canadian and American whiskeys, you can do it with. Don't do it with your scotches.
Okay.
that might be a better
All right.
clarification.
All right, I'll agree with that. I will agree with that.
Because Old Granddad is only $10 in this area, and it's bottled in bond and is a straight bourbon, so it's aged for at least 2 years. So it's only $10, $12.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
yeah, that's not. And if you can't tell already, the resident wildcard Mal's not with us. He's made like a ninja and poofed, gone elsewhere. I don't know where he is. He said he wouldn't be here, so he's not.
Yeah,
here.
he just said he wouldn't be here. Don't ask about it.
Yep.
Very cryptic.
Yeah, he
My
very
brain twice
specifically
said
said,
help.
"If you ask me, you'll live to regret it." And I shouldn't have
kill
been
you.
surprised Mal said that because he is the resident wildcard. But
He is.
Yeah.
so he'll probably be back next week,
Yeah.
or he's gone. The Geostorm got him. Man, I said this last week. I wanted to talk about that movie, but we're not going to talk about it.
One day.
Words cannot be said. It's a movie that needs to be experienced, though.
Yeah.
No, go on. What are you going to say, Ted?
I had a comment, but I'm gonna save it for later because
All right.
it goes. Yeah.
All right, we'll get. We'll talk about
We'll
that
get
later.
there eventually.
Yeah. All right. Well,
We will get there.
in lieu of that, why don't you tell us about your topic, Tetsuo? You were up first tonight.
All right. Well, I don't remember if it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I
believe
talked
2.
about the 10K. Was it 2 weeks? So it was the last time I was on.
Yep.
Yeah, it had
Because
to
Meta
be-
was not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I talked about the game 10 Candles. this past weekend, I was able to run a game of 10, the game of 10 Candles that I was talking about that I was going to run. And I thought I would just give my report, our experiences of the game and how it went over.
Did you use real, authentic candles?
Lights. I will say, if you have to use tea lights, go out and buy them. Do not go ask your mother-in-law for tea lights because she will probably have the ever-burning one. You guys get to the 4th hour, you're like,
well, there's your problem.
No one ever dies. It kind of defeats the purpose of the game.
That was like we were like going up, like, why are these candles not going out? And so finally, my wife was like, nobody's dying, and blows out a candle.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's amazing.
All right, so what is 10 Candles? In case people have not listened to that episode.
10 Candles is a tragic horror RPG. Called tragic horror as opposed to survival horror in the sense that all the characters will perish before the end of the story.
Which I love.
You don't have your characters survive. It's not really designed. It's designed as a one-shot. It's not designed for continuous play. And the way that it handles horror is similar to the game Dread, where you actually have a Jenga tower instead of rolling dice. This one uses external things to cause your tension to rise, and in this case it's a set of 10 candles, and if you couldn't tell by now, you don't want those candles to go out, and if they do, the story progresses. Specifically, the way that dice rolls work, the players have a pool of 10 dice, 1 die for every candle that's lit, and they just have to roll more 6s than the GM to maintain narrative control of the situation. For every candle that goes out, the GM gets 1 of those dice. So as the story progresses, eventually the GM has all 10 dice and the players have none, and therefore the GM gets to kill off the players. It was really interesting. I will say that so one of the core things again is that if a candle goes out for any reason, narrative progresses and the GM gets a die. Excuse me. Accidentally blows out a candle, if somebody, hits the table too hard and a candle goes out, accidentally blows a candle, whatever the case is, that furthers the story. And so the players themselves are very tense the whole time because they're like, I don't want these tiny because they're supposed to be tiny tea lights, and you're not supposed to put them in those little things that kind of protects them. They're supposed to just be sitting out. So any little thing may blow them out. So that's how it kind of maintains the tension a little bit. And it actually worked pretty well. Conceptually, I was thinking it would work well, but I was a little hesitant to see if it would maintain the tension in the same way that the horror game was kind of going towards. But I think it really did, at least with my group.
So what was...
We did have a couple...
Oh, go on, sorry. Keep going, Teds.
I was just gonna go to the next point, so you can go ahead and ask.
Oh no, I was gonna say, what was your kind of setup for your game? What was everyone playing and stuff? Because I know everyone writes down a strength, if I remember correctly, and a weakness, and you pass it to the right and the left, respectively. And then come up with your character.
And those are going to be things like your strength is a strength of character. So I'm brave, or I don't back down easily. Something along those lines. Whereas your vice is going to kind of be, it can be a weakness, but it can also be a vice, again, in the more traditional terms of alcohol or drugs, or as one of the characters we had, an insatiable desire for chocolate. So
yeah, but who doesn't
gotta have chocolate?
Really?
Yeah, well, and how those come into play, and you have 2 other cards that are hope, which essentially is something that'll happen, and it makes it galvanizes you to face this dark threat. And then the last card is I've seen you blank, which is essentially what your character would do in the pit of despair. So like I've seen you kill somebody to survive, or I've seen you steal from those that are worse off than you, just so that way you could, survive. So something along those lines. And so as you play, if you don't roll, so the other thing about the dice is, in between those candles going out, anytime you roll a 1, the GM temporarily gets those dice until the end of the scene. In other words, until the candle goes out. So he could have all the dice on, scene 2, just because you keep rolling 1s. If you fail a roll, you can burn one of your cards by lighting it on a candle. And again, this is where things get tense, because you're picking up an index card and thrusting it into a candle. If you do that too fast or too wrong, you might, blow out the candle with your, index card. But you burn the card, and you get to re-roll any 1s that you rolled during that time.
Oh, nice.
It has to make sense in the narrative. So if your thing is that, so the other thing is you shuffle the cards and you put them in order, so you can only use the card that's on top of your stack. And at the beginning of the game, one person has to have their I've seen you, and another person has to have their thing of hope. Mm-hmm. But nobody else can have those two. Everybody else will be a vice or a virtue. And so if it's, chocolate is on top, but you guys are in the boiler room, unless you I don't know, maybe you've already established that your character's carrying armfuls of chocolate, chances are you're not going to be able to burn that card to get that reroll. Unless you argue for some reason this is the boiler room under the kitchen, and next door there's chocolates and I can smell the chocolates. It's just something like you just have to make it make sense as to why you can burn it to get a reroll. But once you burn it, it's gone. Obviously, the card's aflame. So, and if at any time all of your cards are burned, your character's dead.
So what was your big monster in the shadow and the kind of setup for your game?
Yeah, what were they facing off against?
So the setup of the game is 10 days ago, all of the stars went out of the sky, including the sun. Well, and then 10 minutes later, disappeared of light as well. Mm-hmm. And then 5 days ago, they appeared. And the GM takes control of them, this creature of the darkness, that your players are running against. As I said earlier, with the cards, whenever you write them, you alternate passing to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. But the two players that sit next to the GM, when it comes to the hope and the despair cards, they will actually write. They both will write a truth about them. So they kind of know a little bit more than everybody else does. The only thing that everybody else knows is that they are afraid of light.
Yeah.
That's the baseline for the game. And in my case, my players wrote, one of them wrote that they are trying to harvest our brains to power their machines. And the other one wrote that they are totally immune to Earth-based weapons. Which kind of was because they were shadow people, so guns weren't really going to be working on them anyway.
Gotcha.
Well, then just use lightning-based weapons. Gosh.
Exactly. Well, so
stun guns ahoy.
The setting of the game, they had gotten on a cruise ship before all the lights had gone out 10 days ago. So they're just adrift in the sea. The ship has cinch. The engines have gone out. They're running on generator power that's only flickering the lights in the hallways. They're just adrift at sea. People have started to hold themselves up in rooms, assuming they haven't already been slaughtered by them. And so that's where my players started. Mm-hmm. Aboard the ship. They were just kind of this ragtag group of people who were just hoping to go on a cruise, and this sea tour turned out worse than Gilligan's did. But they
it was the wrong kind of 3-hour tour, huh?
But they being the capital T, the bad guys, they had like the other thing is because you're supposed to be super, super vague. So I only had like super vague ideas about them and kind of built them as we went along.
Yeah.
Whatever was the most scary thing for the situation they were currently in was what they would suddenly manifest those abilities.
Gotcha.
So like there was one point where they were trying to get up to the upper deck so they could at least like see out into the ocean and possibly get on a lifeboat, and they start climbing the stairs. And then they find themselves on the floor that they just came up from. And they went back downstairs. Like I was kind of planning for them to keep going up the stairs and the things just slightly change, but they were just like, oh, nope, this is the same floor. We're going back down now. We're not going to go up there and mess with that. Like,
nope, not JPEG.
Nope, we've seen this before.
Nope. And they just kept doing that everywhere, so I just gave them more nope moments as we went along. Well, though, because it had this moment of just continuous, ever-encroaching despair and that terror. But again, because the lights were going out, there was still this like bit of optimistic hope of maybe this next door will be fine. Yeah. Maybe this next door will be fine.
Who was the first victim?
They actually all died at the same time.
Oh,
TPK.
Yeah, I was impressed with them. Eventually did get up to the deck and jumped off the ship and landed in the water and turbulence and everything. And then as they finally felt washing up on the shore, they were in the engine room, which was kind of the heart of darkness in this ship. And then they were descended upon by 1,000 shadows.
There you go.
That was kind of how the story ended.
That'll do it. That's a fitting end for the last candle going out. And it's just darkness. There's nothing else.
Just because I like watching it. Like, it was the one in front of me, and I'm just kind of watching it starting to flicker, and I'm like, it's about to go out. And so it was like, I was trying to describe that in such a way where it would time well. And so it's like, and then as you, it's the pacing of that last sentence was really bad because I was trying to time it with the candle. Yeah. So it flopped on his face. But the point still went across.
Yeah.
And everybody had a fun time. So I'm glad
that's cool.
that.
Actually sounds really interesting. A game where everybody kind of goes in knowing that they're going to probably die. They're going to die at the end of it.
Yeah. I think my favorite scene, there was one point, I don't remember which room there. I think they were going into the cafeteria, and they saw a light on the other side of the cafeteria hallway, and the voice that spoke back to them was the voice of this woman that they know had already died. Mm-hmm. And one of the girls going with us, she's like, nope, that is not what it is, because I say that's not, so therefore it's not. Nope. And so she started, every single time she would go through, she's like, nope, I say it's not that, so nope, it's not that. Nope, I refuse to accept it. And so because she started doing that, it just slowly started to become more and more, is this, and are they just slowly going insane? Is all this actually what's happening? Which was really interesting, because I didn't plan for that. The players just kind of slipped that in, and it added to the horror aspect.
Huh.
While still also being funny, because it was very comical the way she was just like, I reject your reality and substitute my own. That was kind of...
Yeah, it's a very it-esque, for lack of a better word, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it does feel very it-esque.
And that's the thing I think I like about it, because you can do, I've seen them do it pretty much as a full-on zombie apocalypse. Them just through some of the players that I've watched. Sometimes I've seen it as just aliens. Other times, eldritch horrors, portals to hell opening. I've seen lots of different ways to take it, and I like it because, again, the only hard and fast genre is tragic horror. So you can kind of do whatever you want with the bad guys and totally change the tone. Totally change the tone and just kind of shift the game while still keeping it what it is, which I really liked, because a lot of horror games tend to already be entrenched in a specific genre. Call of Cthulhu is Cthulhu. Anything zombie is going to be just zombie oriented. it's very free form and allows you to kind of do with horror whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, well, here's what I think the game does well. I mean, first off, I haven't played it, so I can't really say for sure, but just based off what you've said about the game, we've kind of talked about it a few times on the podcast. So horror is like a very hard thing to do, and it's a hard game to run as a GM because first off, it's not like your players have any like visual context to what's going on. It has to be very atmospheric, and also player characters are just kind of generally badasses anyways in games. There's who aren't like afraid of this stuff, but the built-in tension of the candles and like everyone knowing they're going to die anyways, and you're not like a really super powerful character. Anyways, I think that the whole design of the game lends itself more to that horror aspect and makes it a lot more effective.
Yeah, I think
I agree with that a lot.
The idea of just going right in and knowing that you're going to die, so there's no point in trying to pretend to be this like powerful badass character, or at least larger than life. I think helps with that too. Because I mean, like as you stated before, one of the biggest problems with running anything horror is just that it really does reside on audio visual cues. That's a very big part of horror. You have to really drown yourself in it, and that means kind of subverting some of your senses to something that ultimately isn't going to be there because it's some guy across the table telling you what you're going to do. So it's hard to really get into that mood. But this game, at least it sounds like, because of what you're doing, you're going in, you already know what's going to happen at the end of the day. So there's no point in trying to play something that's beyond that. You already know the ending. How you get there is where it brings fun into play.
And that reminds me, there was one key important thing that we did skip, and that is at the very, very beginning of the game, you take out your phone or whatever recording thing you want to use, and you actually record everybody's final moments before you start the game. So they don't even know exactly how they're going to die, and they're already making their last tape recording that they're leaving for some survivor to find at a later point.
That's really cool.
That would be really cool if you somehow were able to get it to that point for each and every one of them to literally repeat their deaths.
Exactly. But so I kind of skipped it because first off, we were a little bit I wouldn't say pressed for time exactly, but essentially we had a few of our other married friends over, and one of the couples have a
Have a what?
Have a
August, cat. And so they brought the child with them.
Oh, they had a baby,
which actually worked because the lights were out, and so the baby went to sleep. But every so often would start to cry at the most creepy moments. And so the baby
that's good.
Was able to,
creepy as fuck.
It was great. My cat, of course, was totally playing into the whole "what was that scaring sound we just heard?"
Yeah.
But one of the drawbacks, one of the things I think that it does to kind of subvert itself in what it's doing, is because everybody knows they're going to die, as the game draws on, the players get a little bit less interested, but I guess less invested in the game. Like early on, everybody was throwing things out. They were really getting involved. They were, do we do this? Do we do this? I don't want to go that way, But then towards the end, everybody was kind of like, I don't know. What do you guys want to do? Wherever,
I guess that would be a problem. Is that on one hand, you kind of get rid of the larger than life because you know the ending, so there's no point in trying to do something that's going to make you seem impossible for you to die or make you greater than you are because you're going to die at the end of the day. But a part of knowing that, part of a story and getting somebody invested is figuring out what's going to happen next. But if you're getting to that point where it's getting close to the end, and you already know what's going to happen, I could definitely see where the investment of people starts to falter because you're getting to that point and there's really not much more to explore. You kind of know how it's going to play out.
And that's when, as a GM, with this game specifically, as a GM, you kind of step in. And I realized a lot of the lion's share of the GM work was at the beginning just setting things up. And then at the end, just kind of tying those loose ends. Because eventually everybody kind of gets to the point where it's like, okay, I know I'm going to die here soon. I want to do some stuff, but I don't really know what else there is to the story to explore. I feel like I've explored everything in my character. So at this point in time, I think I'm done. And so that's when, a character, quote unquote, accidentally sneezes and blows out a light. You know, that kind of stuff kind of happens. But everybody, like, you know, I as a GM, or, you know, if you're playing the game in general, don't be a douche and be the guy that, oops, I accidentally did it, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
But when you can tell that everybody's kind of getting to that point, it works better. Or at the very least, you can see everybody's starting to get to that point. You just do one, and then you just kind of are like starting to accelerate the time frame. And I don't know how much, again, that was just because we had these extra duty long burn tea lights. That also may have been part of it. Because if they were regular tea lights, people may have been dying sooner.
Well, the GM just keeps not having 10 dice to roll.
Yeah.
How about that? We're just going to breeze right through this boat.
Well, because like the other funny thing was, like, even when they were rolling tons of one, like there was one point, I think it was like round scene 2 or 3, where they had 8 or 7 dice to begin with, but at the end I had 8 or 7 or whatever the number was. They only had a couple, and I'm still rolling no 6s, and they're rolling a bunch of, like, all their dice are 6s. And I'm like, all right, well then,
statistical odds don't make sense.
The monster again. And
yeah, I think that might have been the problem, is that, like, you'd probably have to run it again with actual tea lights, but it sounds like because nobody was dead and they'd all kind of had the chance to explore their character, I think a part of it ultimately, I keep saying I think it's a part of, but ultimately the end of the tension, knowing how you're going to die, does kill off tension later on, but it helps kind of define that a character that's not going to go above and beyond being what they are, a very mortal character. I think it would help if people were able to die off earlier, though, as you noted, because at that point, that would put the tension on what would my character explore. Because if you're really playing this character to explore and try new things, if your character dies off really early, it's going to suck, because then that means you couldn't, explore everything about your character.
Well, and then two, your character only dies when all of your cards, like, despite everything else that's going on, your character only dies when either the last candle goes out or you burn all of your cards.
Yeah.
Which, again, that's your character sheet. So if you don't burn through all your cards, you don't get to fully explore your character. But if you do, you kind of have hit all the big points.
No, but isn't there, like, but the way I'm understanding is, like, isn't it the point where the GM can eventually force a situation where you're kind of screwed no matter what?
Yeah, but that's when the last candle's going out, essentially.
You can't. So would that mean that a player technically can never die until they get to that last candle?
Yeah, and that's what kind of happened with us, because we had, I think they only burned, because we had 5 players, and I think 5 players. I think we only burned through 4 of our index cards.
Huh.
Yeah, like there was one person who didn't burn a single card. Granted, that was the mother of the baby, and so there were times when she was, going into the adjacent room to take care of the baby, but she could hear and was still giving input, so that too may have been part of it. But part of it was they didn't, because of the way the dice were rolling, they didn't have reasons to really burn through cards, and they were maintaining narrative control. Because again, this is a very narrative-based game, so they were maintaining a lot of narrative control.
Well, like, what my question is more is, like, if the GM gains narrative control and a person is down to their last card, is it possible for the GM with narrative control to force the player into a situation where, regardless, if they don't burn the card, they're screwed, or if they do burn the card, they're screwed? Or is that just not possible?
He dropped.
He died.
There he is.
He's alive.
Sorry, I don't know what Discord did.
Okay, so what I was asking was, is it possible, because I don't know if you heard my question or not, but is it possible that if the GM has narrative control, can they essentially end up forcing a player into a position of, if you don't burn the card, you're screwed, and if you do burn the card, you're screwed? Essentially, damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yes, but with the caveat of the
Cut off there, Tets.
Yeah, you cut off.
You can do that, but kind of more with. Am I cutting off?
Nah, I can hear you.
No, I gotcha.
Discord showing me red bars and saying I'm disconnected.
When you came back, it was like a sound.
Like your cat had punched you in the gut or something.
Yeah.
No, it was a throat. It was a throat punch. No, but yes, you can do that, but until they do burn, because if you have narrative control, that means that they did not beat you. So you may entice them to try to burn that last card to at least, help out their teammates, or to choose not to. But then it's kind of one of those, there's fates worse than death. And so that's kind of where the creativity of being a GM in this game kind of really can make or break it. Because if the GM's all just about, well, here's a whole bunch of monsters and you're going to die from monsters because monsters roar, it dimensional horror, I guess. Yeah. But if you're building on, not only there's these monsters, then there's this kind of questioning psychosis, and then you have a question of some spirituality involved, and then there's this and that, and you start adding these things, and maybe the other players are out to get you, and you start to heap on other things, you get this multi-dimensional fear. And so you can give them something that's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, without it being the threat of dying.
If I was a player, it'd be more like how am I going to use these cards and stuff to have a cool moment before my for lack of a better term, candle goes out.
That's really goes out, but that technically does mean that a player could just play a right bastard, and who never does anything and never burns their cards because they technically will never die or be in a situation where they feel that any fate could really affect them because they'll still have cards.
Right. And again, that kind of can happen, but you can encourage them as the GM. And so one of the things I did was I did sit my players down beforehand, and I kind of explained to them the way the game was going. Because you do create the characters collaboratively, and as they complete some of the cards, you only light a few of the candles, so you kind of stagger lighting of the candles, and that helps with the time frame. But I was also taking some of that opportunity to kind of be like, okay, guys, look, part of this is you guys need to try to burn your cards, you need to try to do this, you need to try to do this. Don't be the hero where I'm just going to sit on my cards so that way I have a stock of these quote-unquote points that I can, spend sometime later. Because again, the burning of the card, all it lets you do is re-roll ones. It's not really going to save you. The saving grace, if you will, is just that if you have one remaining, you'll make it to the last candle.
Okay, so you really should.
But that's not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, you should.
It kind of defeats the purpose of playing the game.
Yeah. Okay, that's really what I was trying to figure out. Is if that really defeats the purpose, and if it leads to that, then yeah, definitely sitting down with your players beforehand, letting them know that yeah, you can do this. Yeah, sure, you can make it to the last candle, but the point is to create a cool story.
It's not the fun of the game.
Yeah, because you're gonna die no matter what. So why bother sitting on them if you're just gonna die at the end?
Kind of the whole, the rule number 2, rule number 3 of RPGs in general. Everybody should sit down and discuss what they're expecting out of the game before you play it.
Yeah, that's
so it kind of goes with that. But the other thing that I found, and again I shared with them at the beginning, was that mechanically speaking, for those players that are more mechanically minded, you have the biggest chance to get the most bang for your buck by burning the cards early. If you save them till later, you're not
as effective.
You're not saving as much dice, because all you're doing is re-rolling them. It doesn't even guarantee you'll keep narrative control. You just re-rolling any ones you've rolled. So as your dice pool shrinks, the less and less effective those cards become at helping you and your friends. So sitting on your whole stack of them to the end of the game, that's not exactly going to be very fun.
Yeah, it's not going to really benefit you anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad you guys had fun with that. I wish there was a way that, because we talked about this when we did the episode. Yeah, we would have had to get a table and a webcam and fill the cameras if we were going to do that for a monthly mod. But hey,
I would love to do a horror game, but unfortunately, just because of where we're at, there's really no way to get that into any solid place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
everybody have to swear that they turned out all their lights and turned off any sounds, and
Yeah. We had our own horror story. We went through the game we didn't completely understand in October. So, oh my gosh! All right, Meta, what do you got for us?
So it's not as horror based as Tetsu's, but I will admit, I don't want to spoil anything for you because you haven't played the game yet.
I'm going to play it eventually.
So I don't want to ruin anything for you, but there are some really good moments and there is some horror abound. But actually, I want to talk about superheroes and specifically the best kind of superheroes, parody superheroes.
Thor comes out tonight. No.
No, not Thor. I'm not going to talk about Thor. I can't talk about it. It's not even out yet.
I'm going to see it in 3 hours.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Oh man, I might see it on Sunday, so we might have something to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure Mal will see it too. But go on.
I'm going to talk about South Park, the fractured butthole.
It's the fractured butthole, not the fractured butthole, Meta. Come on, get it right.
No,
Proper
I
inflection
said it
here.
exactly right.
I don't hear a difference. I don't hear a difference.
Oh man.
I mean, it's South Park, so.
Yeah, it's South Park. I was actually watching streamers play this game for a little bit. Specifically, I think it was Jesse Cox. I was following him on this one because he was just the first one I saw. But I don't know, man. Like, I just saw the game. I saw some of the stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is really, really good." And I started to really get into the game, and then I was like, "I need to get this game. I need to pay it." So I dropped the money on it. I played it. It's South Park.
I've been tempted.
It's definitely.
Man, I love South Park. It's one of my favorite shows. So.
It actually got me to start watching some of the seasons again.
Yeah. And
I'm not huge on South Park, but watching the Let's Plays of this game have me wanting playing this game.
It's honestly, it's a very enjoyable game. The story is very hilarious, as always per South Park. It's
like a 20-hour South Park movie, basically.
There's, I think the full movie, somebody clocked in with all the video scenes and whatnot, is like 2.5 hours, which is general for games nowadays. So it's like a really long, it's almost like a very short season of South Park, if you will. But the game was fun. It is still South Park at its core. Satire is abound. The premise of the game is that essentially you guys are still playing the Stick of Truth when Cartman comes in and states that there is evil crime going down and they need to switch over, and he also has a poster of $100 reward so they can start their franchise, the superhero franchise.
Yeah, because they're trying to find a missing cat, right?
Yeah, they're trying to find a missing cat, and that's really what starts off the whole thing. So they immediately quit. They tell them everybody else is losers, and they can go home. They're playing superheroes now. So you were the king. You were the king originally, and now you go down there, and they're like, "Well, I guess we can have you join us. We'll make you start you with a really small kid."
Yeah, how do they work in the new kid into this thing? Because you were you were the Dragonborn at the end of the last game. You're basically the guy from Skyrim, literally. Like they call you Dovahkiin and stuff.
Yep. Long story short, they kind of work you in is that you essentially go downstairs. You figure out what the password is to get into Cartman's basement because he set one up. He set it up to keep his mom out. You find the password. You go downstairs in the basement. He's trying to figure out look, we're playing superheroes. You can't play with us. But obviously because you're the completely silent protagonist, Cartman eventually gives in. He's like, fine, we'll create a backstory for you, and whatnot. Let's create a character.
That's so awesome. I haven't watched anything in this game yet, by the way.
It's really well done. It's as always, it's Cartman being Cartman. When he kind of leads you.
Cartman being Cartman.
And so the gameplay in itself is very fun. It's very basic though. There really isn't a lot to the meat and potatoes of the game. So if you're really a mechanical person or you love learning about frame data, this is not the game for you. Although it is based on a more strategic setup, it's still not all that deep. But you get generally some status effects. You get effects that can happen from your attacks. It's done in generally a grid system. You've got you essentially move 4 ways: south, north, east, west. You have a certain amount of movement that you can do per turn. You have different classes that you can choose from, and eventually you can triple or even quad class later on. But at the beginning of the game, you can just choose 1 or 3 classes, and that's your starting loadout. Which covers your core things. You get a very upfront melee character who's kind of the Hulk and stuff, characters like that.
Is that like a Tolkien in this game? Is he isn't Tupperware like the tank or something in this game?
Tupperware is a gadgeteer, as they call it. He uses gadgets and whatnot to...
Batman and Iron Man.
Yeah, essentially. That's really what he is. They're all based. Obviously, they're all based. Like all the classes are based off of different themes and whatnot. You've got the blaster, who is essentially your long range character, and then you've got
that's like Kyle, right?
Yeah,
human
Kyle.
kite.
Yeah, Kyle is like the human kite. And then you've got like your speedster character, which are your 3 starting classes, and you can choose from them. And they all have different effects. They all have different abilities. There's some very interesting stuff that you can do with all of them.
But is that what Mysterion is? Is he like the speeder?
Essentially, your character follows the point of like just starting as a superhero to be eventually becoming like the destined superhero to save everything, just like it was in the last game, where you start off as like nothing and you become everything. Obviously, during this time, while you guys are playing superheroes, there's other shit going on that's in the background that eventually you guys deal with because it's the central focus of the game.
It's a South Park, so
it's South Park. Everything eventually converges together. It's pretty silly and dumb.
Yeah.
The jokes are on point. It's the obviously I have to talk about it because it's the one thing that everybody talks about. The difficulty slider in the game, where you choose your skin tone, and if you choose like completely pale, you're easy mode. If you go black, it's called difficult or like hard. I want to say for the record, apparently doesn't actually really change anything.
Yeah.
Some of the dialogue for the characters does change to you. I still have to play. I'm actually going to go and play through the game with that slider on just to find out the differences.
Well, I think to get the platinum, you have to play as a black character.
Yeah, you actually have to play. You have to play as the black character, and you have to play it on the hardest at combat difficulty, which is really where the difficulty comes into play. If you play through the whole game like that, you'll get the platinum achievement on there, which is kind of silly. Although I'll be honest, the game is not that hard. I played it on normal difficulty because.
I always play on normal the first time I play a game.
I played on normal difficulty. I thought it was going to be a little bit more difficult, but it's not. The scaling of enemies and how hard they can wreck you does get pretty potent later on.
And it's got some bad ramping.
Yeah, it's got some bad ramping. Later on, your allies can start being taken out pretty quickly. It generally becomes that sometimes it almost felt like I really needed a character who could heal. Healing items for the first, I would say, 2/3 of the game. I didn't really need to use healing items. Sometimes if my character got killed by just an unfortunate move on my part, I might have had to use 1 or 2 healing serums, like reviving items, for the first 2/3 of the game. And then after that, it actually became pretty normal for me to start utilizing healing items a lot. And part of the problem is just that like the ramping is just enemies get really strong. I think on the harder difficulties show out, but for the most part, as long as you play smart, you can win the game pretty easily. There's generally a basic strategy to doing things.
That's how Stick of Truth was. Stick of Truth was basically, the old combat was like Paper Mario, essentially. You have your old time stuff, you have like some abilities and stuff like that. I mean, the games are kind of like not really about the combat necessarily, like the game. It's more about like, oh, I'm playing an episode of South Park. It's kind of the whole thing of the game. I'm not saying the game can't be fun or anything, or you can't get enjoyment out of it, but it's kind of like almost like just a game geared towards people who can tolerate South Park.
That's really what it felt like to me. Playing through the game is very simple, in my eyes, at least. I went through it. I had a lot of fun, but I really was playing it just to try to get through all of the South Park cutscene stuff because I really wanted just to see like what was going to happen next to the kids. And then obviously the people surrounding the kids and whatnot. So I enjoyed it for that.
And the first one has lots of great references. As someone who's seen like every episode, I think up to that point they had an Easter egg for every episode of South Park. There was some kind of reference to it, like whether it was a random item you picked up or like something on a wall or something you saw in the background.
They do that off of this game as well. Like for instance, you have the member berries. They show up, and they're essentially a collectible. Like trying to find them all just to get an achievement.
Yeah.
Then you have Craig and Tweak Yahweh collection. You have to go around and collect all the Yahweh of them. It turns out Craig's father is like trying to collect all of it because he's trying to sell it to people because apparently there's a very big market for it.
There's that episode is great, by the way.
I love that episode. That actually was a really good episode. I loved it. There's other collectible stuff in the game that you can go around, but really those are the 2 major ones that I can remember off the top of my head.
The first one was the Chin Pokemon. Yeah, to collect all the Chin Pokemon.
God.
There's like, isn't there one garage that has like Chin Pokemon in the garage?
That actually does get referenced actually. The one of the characters is called Call Girl. It's Wendy. She's Call Girl.
Oh my god.
She uses phones
That's
and
her
shit to
freaking name. Is Call Girl.
That's her super
oh my god.
hero name. But her ultimate ability is quite literally she takes two phones and is effectively Chin Pokemon Go, and then states that there's like a really rare Chin Pokemon in the area where you're fighting, and the whole field gets filled up with people. They just trample over all the bad guys trying to find the rare Pokemon. It's
That's
perfect.
Awesome.
It does reference it. They have references to season 19. PC Principal shows up, and you learn how to utilize microaggressions to your advantage.
Oh my god,
you
that's
get, like,
amazing!
Free hits on people. You can do extra damage to them.
Triggered.
Yeah. they have the Shipey. I can't remember what it's called, like Shipey Town and like Sopa.
Oh yeah,
Those showed up from season 19. Obviously the member berries from season 20 show up and whatnot.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of things that like are referenced. I don't know if it's as many Easter eggs, but there are a fair number of Easter eggs from those 2 seasons alone within the game, not counting older seasons and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I honestly though it was really enjoyable. I liked going through it, and the there are I want to talk about the classes really fast here. I think there are about 10 to 12 classes to choose from.
Oh,
I don't remember.
A lot. That's more than I thought.
Yeah, it's actually a lot. You essentially get 3 main abilities, which are essentially your core 3 abilities that you utilize, and then you have your ultimate when in the game. And the ultimate will fill up as you do actions and whatnot, damaging or pressing a timed key to get a little health back when you get hit.
Yeah.
Or raise up your ultimate meter. The only downside is that unfortunately, as you get more classes and you really want to try out different combinations, because there's a point in the game where you unlock all the classes, like because Timmy is essentially Xavier from X-Men.
That's amazing.
There's a point where he just unlocks all of them for you at the same time, so you have access to all of them across the board, and it's really cool. It's really nice. But there is definitely a point where it's like I really want to try certain builds, but I really wish I had another just a normal slot, like one more ability slot that I could choose from, so I could really cover some bases on stuff. There's also a lot of times where certain abilities do tend to be only attached to one thing. Like I think there's only one ability in the game that lets you confuse opponents, and that's from the Psychic class. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact that there's only one ability that allows you to charm opponents, and that's from the Plantmancer. And unfortunately, Plantmancer and the Martial Artist come really late in the game, so it kind of sucks because if you really wanted to play with those classes early on, or try them out with different things, you have to wait until they show up later on to really play with them. There is very much there's a number of other different varied things, like how they affect not only how they work on the field, like Cerebral Blast from the Psychic is like diagonals from you, but it's the only move that does that. You'll generally find that there's definitely, it feels like there are certain moves that are just better than other moves though. Overall, there is one ability from the Assassin class, which does like 3 spaces north, south, east, and west of you. You hit them for not only a fair amount of damage, but you cause the bleeding status effect on them, so it's really hard to not utilize that because it's just a really potent move.
Just go full on Peacekeeper.
Yeah, pretty much. The Assassin, I actually argue that the Assassin class is probably one of the best, if not the best class in the game. It has ranged moves. It has the ability to go invisible, which means the enemies can't attack you. It has the ability to. It has 2 of its attack types. Actually, 3, not counting its ultimate. If you don't count its ultimate, it's 2. If you count its ultimate, then it's 3. 2 of its attacks cause bleed damage, status effect on your opponent, and one of them hits as hard, if not harder, than the starting melee class in the game, which causes knockback, and it also has bleed. But technically knockback, if you knock it into an ally, they'll also do damage to the opponent as well.
Yeah, it's like an attack of opportunity, basically.
Yeah, essentially. If you knock them into an enemy, you deal damage to the extra enemy as well. If you knock it into an ally, they take another hit from them.
Nice.
So,
isn't there also sometimes like items on the field that you can knock them into to do damage?
Yes. Well? Yeah, there's items you can knock them into as well. Knockback in general, I think, is probably knockback early on in the game is not all that great, but later on you'll hit opponents for like 300, and then you'll knock them back into an ally, and they'll hit them for another 100.
Yeah,
knockback becomes really powerful later on.
Man, I kept like reading reviews when the game was coming out, and I was like, I really want to play this game. I kind of want to wait because Mario's coming out. I'm playing Fire Emblem. Been playing this JRPG. I keep hearing more about the game, and I want to freaking play it because I love South Park and I love the first game. But
it's a good game.
I'm playing three things right now.
You're gonna have to wait. If it makes you feel any better, though, the real major DLC for South Park isn't gonna come out until, at least in my opinion, the real major DLC until 2018. The first season, because they apparently have this whole season pass details at least for it out. The first DLC is just going to be the danger room, the training room. Like Ayla X-Men is going to be available to do some like super hard fighting challenges. It'll also unlock a few more costumes and whatnot, because you can go through the game as you unlock stuff and you'll get more costumes and stuff.
Fashion Souls.
Yeah. Then after that, which in 2018 this is where it really comes into play, is you'll get the story expansion, which is From Dusk Till Casa Bonita, which is obviously a play off of From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
But essentially you team up with the Coon and Mysterion to defeat the demonic presence of Casa Bonita. And it also
jump off the cliff with sweet cliff divers.
Yep. You'll also get another expansion called Bring the Crunch, which adds a new story.
Mint Berry Crunch.
Yep, and a new superhero class, which both of these are for $12, unfortunately.
Mint Berry Crunch.
We do know that the first one, I believe, is going to have you facing goth kids and vampires who are trying to summon a demonic presence. So I'm kind of excited to see it. I'm hoping that potentially the new class might be a vampire, because there is one sidekick, Clyde, who has a class you don't have access to at all. Because generally you can copy just about anybody's class in some shape or form. But Clyde actually has
Mosquito.
Yeah, he's the Mosquito, and he actually has a class I think called that's actually called Vampire. It's like something vampire. It's a hybrid of two. Mm-hmm. But when he attacks, he actually heals himself when he attacks an opponent.
Oh, that's good.
So it's actually pretty good. Although he's kind of fragile, but I mean the self healing is really potent.
Yeah.
He's also really maneuverable from most of his abilities, right?
Yeah, he has a lot of good abilities. He's actually a pretty solid character in my eyes. His single hits 3 times, so he'll generally heal himself up a fair amount. He can do a line attack, which will hit in multiple people and heal himself. And he has one other move that will hit around him, causing a little bit of damage, a status effect, and most importantly, give him attack up for his later turns if he survives to that point.
So who is your party meta then? I don't know who you use.
I'll be honest, the party I use actually switches around. There's none of the other kids I really cared for all that much. In any particular, I will say my favorite sidekick character was actually Call Girl herself. If nothing for the fact that I liked her character, and the very fact that she's just decked out in like iPhones and iPads and Samsungs and Galaxies and whatnot. Just that made me laugh. But she's actually just overall a generally good character. She's got a good amount of ability. She's got a taunt and shield. She's got a really good, strong, potent range attack and very, very strong melee attack. But generally, I tended to either take then the human kite or Clyde, depending on who I felt like. I enjoyed Craig, Super Craig. I just thought was funny.
What does Craig do?
Super Craig is literally a bruiser, but he's a really like tank-based bruiser that's more of direct tanking.
Oh, okay.
He either has a move that will punch somebody really hard and knock them back. He has a ranged move that will knock back the first person he hits. And then he has another one where he just gives somebody the middle finger and it taunts them and forces them to attack him, but he puts up a shield so you really can't be damaged by it.
He's almost like Superman if Superman decided to lose the lasers and the frost breath.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's really what his character is. Super Craig is just Superman, essentially. But I actually brought him along because I just loved his deadpan humor, and he's always
he's awesome.
He's like there's like one of the instances he trades with Kyle for the human kite. He's like, wow, I didn't know human kites could shoot lasers. And he's like, well, I'm glad you changed your opinion on them. And he's like, who said I changed my opinion?
Yeah. So how heavily does the game lean on like the Civil War satire stuff, or does it like completely segue by the end of it?
The Civil War, it comes up a lot in the first half of the game. Like, it does happen, but it's not a major focus. It's just like they always make jokes about it.
It's like the setup, basically.
There's like use Civil War a couple of times, and when they do it like the second or third time, they make reference to the fact that it's like the second or third time that you're Civil Warring. And they're like, yeah, Civil War, throwdown, second time.
Oh my god.
Is it Civil War? For some reason, I thought it was like supposed to be DC, like kicking the DC versus Marvel as opposed to Civil War.
No, it doesn't. They don't care. It's a reference to all superheroes and generals. So,
man,
yeah, like.
Oh man, I want to play it.
Yup. And then I think there's supposed to be a little bit more DLC that comes later on. I don't know if they've decided anything of that, because when you go to Canada, they have the wall up there. Because like in the original game, you went over there for the RP, and you went like to the JRPG thing.
Yeah.
But in this game, if you try to go back up there, you get to
Garrison's wall.
Yeah, the wall that's been set up. I don't know if there's going to be a DLC that involves that or not, but I would like to think there might be something up there. So
Canada was like the biggest surprise in the first game because like everything is 8-bit.
Yeah,
it was pretty awesome.
But it's a good game. I enjoyed the crap out of it. I can't wait for the DLC. The only downside I would state is that there really is nothing to do once you beat the story. You finish up stuff that showed up at the start of the game. There's only one secret battle, which I won't say. But that secret battle, it is the hardest battle. So technically there is one thing you can do that's like the last challenge, but it really is just one thing. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, it's all about experiencing the story for the most part.
Yeah.
That's why you have the game.
Yeah. I almost wish this game did have a New Game Plus. I would actually play through this game if it had a New Game Plus.
Yeah.
It'd be really fun to play through like that, but it does not, so.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
Oh, well, once I get through my long list of stuff I'm playing right now, it feels like I'm back on the backlog. I cleared my backlog from all the way back in February, basically, and now it's back again because I got to play through Mario. I got to finish Fire Emblem Warriors. I've been playing Trails of Cold Steel 2, and then I want to play this. And then I've got to do it all before Monster Hunter World.
Yep, because Monster Hunter World is going to come out, and then I actually need to take a look into the Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, I want to replay that
multiplayer
too.
Yeah, I kind of want to see that I want to try it out. I want to see how it goes.
Yeah. Oh man, too much
what's
to do.
Your topic,
too little
man?
time. My topic. So we were talking about multiplayer stuff. That's a good segue, man. I see what you did there.
All right, see, I set it up for you, man. Spike the ball, spike it.
Now I'm going to slam dunk it.
Okay,
anyways,
well, alley-oop.
So off stream a little bit, Mal and I have been talking about. I think we might have even talked about this a little in the last episode. We're like, oh man, how great would it be to like play through Bloodborne again and stuff, and we could like co-op it and stuff. And I was like, yeah, we could probably like record that and throw it up on the YouTube channel. So it was announced today, maybe it might have been like sometime earlier this week, but I saw the news today on Kotaku that the Monster Hunter World Beta is going to come out next month.
Yeah,
which it's a game where we're all, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know we're all going to basically play it. So we were talking about things we could possibly do for Let's Plays and throw up on the channel. So this is almost like a community, like, what do you guys want to see us play multiplayer game if you wanted to watch us play anything? And what do you guys, that being you, Tetsuo, and Meta, think would make for some good multiplayer content that we could put on our channel? And I'll let you guys go at it.
I'm going to tell you right now, old school tactical RPGs apparently just hit home for a lot of people. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I like it's not. I would honestly say that it's not like probably one of the best things to stream with multiple people playing for the same game, because it's really not a thing. But for some people just really like seeing those kind of games, and I don't blame them because they are fun. But
actually, related to that, I've been for some reason wanting to try Pokemon Conquest here recently.
Gonna show Japan your glorious Nippon.
Show them your glorious Nippon Lapras.
Folded 1,000 times.
Yeah, the shell on his back is hardened steel.
The real question is, can I cut bullets with my Lapras?
My god.
No, but you can cut long swords.
All right.
Inferior westward steel.
I don't know if there's any game I've actually it's a legit answer now. I don't know if there's any game I've actually wanted to see myself stream. Specifically, nothing comes to the top of my head.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it's more just like games that I feel like we would all have fun just goofing off.
Like we did with For Honor. Like that would be great to put up if we had started the channel then.
Oh, that would have been perfect. Well, I mean, we can go back to it eventually because they are going to put dedicated servers in.
We're going to do that eventually.
I know for a fact I'm playing that game when dedicated servers come back out because that was one of my biggest frustrations was latency, getting kicked from the game, a number of policies that had set in. It got frustrating because if you were winning, suddenly somebody would disconnect, you'd go back 5 seconds, and then the dude would come out of nowhere and kill you. And I'm like, this is bullshit.
Freaking berserkers. Freaking berserkers.
Damn it. Also, I just want to see Top Heavy Mao again. So.
Yeah, running heavy.
Running heavy.
People need to get in on the inside joke.
All right.
What about you, Tets?
Like I feel like the biggest thing is as I just said, is that just things that we can get together and just kind of stupid comments over, because I feel like that's the majority of the fun I have.
That's all the fun of
online.
Yeah, that's all the fun of watching someone do something.
But what I mean is like some games don't lend as well to that multiplayer wise.
Okay, so let's give a follow up. What would be, in your opinion, a bad kind of multiplayer game?
Well, I was gonna say, unless you're like really
Pokemon Yellow.
that multiplayer Pokemon Yellow. Just watch us do Pokemon Yellow Pokemon battles against each other. That would be awful.
That would be horrible.
No, I was thinking Destiny, like split both sides. PvE wise, I could see it working really well. PvP, not as much. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's as funny. Like, people don't seem to, I guess, make like the kind of same like jokes that they do when they're playing PvP versus PvE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And granted, that's just Destiny. It's not necessarily for all PvE versus PvP stuff. But I know that Destiny isn't necessarily one that really is an option for us. But
PvE is always like a very laid back, chill. Like we're hanging with the boys or girls, and just like just put that out there.
That's very quick.
Yeah. The joke was intentional. I'm glad you got it, Minute.
I like it.
All right. So, but yeah, it's very much like the laid back, hanging out, like kind of. It's not super high stress. I mean, it can be, but it's not like the we gotta like beat these other guys who like know the meta and stuff.
Going back to For Honor, which is entirely PvP. I don't know, like For Honor has this element of it that just, I guess it's the stupid situations that you just randomly.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
And the salt. You gotta love the salt.
There's just a point like where you're playing the game and it's just like there's a point where you get past that Zen mark and then you're just like, this is chill. This is it.
If you want to hear us cuss like sailors, listen to us play For Honor.
There's the Shokugeki.
Yeah, there's
what? He's over here. I'm like, on top of me.
Freaking Peacekeeper. The lunge is busted. Nerf.
I have had some hilarious situations. I mean, like I was playing. It was one where I was still streaming the game. I was playing with a buddy of mine. He was playing a Shugoki, and all of a sudden we realized that when a Shugoki picks up somebody and grabs them, they're completely exposed to everybody else.
So everybody start heavy.
So my buddy and we timed this perfectly. I had him like I confronted like an enemy that was in a base, and I started to like dance around him and pull his attention. And then I had the Shugoki come up behind him with my buddy, and he grabbed him, immediately rushed in and just started top heavying as hard as I could. And we killed him like that. Like that shit though, that's what makes it so funny.
The random getting knocked off of a cliff out of nowhere. Man.
There's like so many things that would get people pissed off and salty about the game are just also very funny for that game too.
Exactly.
It's funny because of the salt. I think.
Not
just salt you're forcing on them, but it's like, dang, I am saltier than the ocean right now. Like,
there is
sodium
no
levels
saltier than me.
Exactly.
God.
Just call me Mr. Lick Salt.
Could be the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Wah, wah.
But yeah, I would say like any games, like many games where like you end up getting into PvP would probably not be like what we would do. I mean, there's the exceptions like For Honor, which we all went into knowing that this game is probably gonna have some silly things attached to it, but we really like it. We want to play it.
Yep.
I like it's almost kind of funny because I see more games in the future coming out that we would all play together and be very chill on, like Monster Hunter Worlds, and then there was the one game on E3 with the had like the robotic suits or whatever.
The BioWare game.
Yeah.
Now I know we're talking about it. I can't. It's not Asylum, but yeah, something like that.
But you know what I'm talking about. It's that game right there looked like a fantastic game for us to all play and just chill out and be stupid with one another in. So I think like more games in the future is what I'm seeing is like stuff that we'll probably get more miles out of than as of current. Because honestly, I don't even play that many games with friends that I have here. We don't even play a lot of like the same games, so
I don't either. That's how I am with my friends. Like basically, like the biggest thing we all ever played together was World of Warcraft, essentially. And
that's really what it comes down to. Like most often than not, we end up playing like tabletops RPGs.
Exactly.
You could do a lot more with those and create a world that everybody has an interest invested into. So.
Or just card games or war games or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my friends are big into fighting games, which I'm not into really at all, unless it's Super Smash Bros. So there you go. But
is that really a fighting game?
Oh, let's not get in that debate.
sumo.
Just trigger people. It's your turn to trigger people now, buddy. No.
What? Here's a fighting game. Here's my very long
We're part of
paragraph response.
We're part of the FGC. It has combos and stuff. It's like, man, what? It's like one of my friends one time was like, you think like the Smash like needs the FGC or whatever? I was like, man, Smash is doing fine on their own. Just let them be separate. It's plenty popular enough. I was like, why would they want to be a part of the FGC? And the guy was like, ugh, why wouldn't they? And it got really triggered. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But I was like, they're perfectly fine being separate entities. They don't have
surviving.
To merge. It's fine.
They are. The Smash competitive scene is surviving all on its own.
It's super freaking popular.
I have to admit, I'm actually, just as a side tangent here, I actually am impressed with how they have survived. Because generally, tourney scenes are almost always survived by the fact that the company that made the game is investing into the tournament scene for that game.
And Nintendo barely did jack crap for many years.
Yeah, like they almost touched on nothing for years. That fact that it survived not only to this day, but to the point where there was an article out a while ago where there is a shortage of good GameCube controllers to work with the Melee tournament scene.
Yeah.
Sets a precedent. It tells you something.
I've got 8 GameCube controllers sitting right there. So
it's gonna be one day, Obs. It's gonna be worth.
I'm gonna sell these things for $50 a piece. No, something I kind of think would be cool, just based off what kind of the story you were telling a few weeks ago about this meta. What would be Divinity would be a very fun game for us to play if we all got a hold of that.
Yeah, I think that would actually be good. I wouldn't mind running through that and playing a totally different class because that game actually has the ability to be really silly with it as well. And
when you were telling me about Death Knight, who was a kleptomaniac, then I was like, man, we could do some funny stuff with this game.
That is currently my character. We have for the stream, like I said, the title I'd named for the stream was very apt for our characters. We had a murder hobo lizard, we had a kleptomaniac Death Knight, we had a cowardly assassin, and then we had potentially one sane individual trying to wrangle us together, like a cat herder or something. Yeah. And I guess the best way to describe us is heroes on a budget because we'll use I kid you not, we had one game where we ended up sitting there and I strategically had everybody place and talk to different NPCs so they face away so I could steal from this one NPC and then sell the products back to somebody else so that we could make enough money to buy what we wanted.
Man, that's amazing.
It's so shit we do.
Oh my god. Yeah, we could do that and we could dick around on that game pretty easily. Since when we covered that as a topic, I was like, man, this game sounds so interesting. And I watched a few streams of it and I was like, man, this would be super fun to do.
The only thing is that it definitely that is not something you can just sit down and expect to beat in like a few sittings. Even with the
oh yeah,
there's a lot of talking. It's gonna take
meta. I played games that are like 80
I
hours
forgot who I was
long.
talking.
Come on.
I forgot who I was talking to. The guy who will like immediately like devour a game in like a week's time.
Yeah.
Put 70 hours into 6 games over the course of
70 hours in 2 days.
Yeah. You're talking about the guy who got his like 200-hour platinum trophy on Persona 5 in like less than a month. Because I was like,
his whole life was that.
I didn't have a job. I was in school. I was like, I'm done with school. I'm playing Persona for 10 hours today, every day.
I mean, what's really wrong with that, though? I mean, really?
Nothing.
Really?
It's my favorite game of all time. So there you go.
That's why you no doubt love the fact that Sonic Forces will have a Persona 5 costume.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm looking forward to, man. Let me tell you.
Are we Sonic Personaing for a...
God, no.
That's what I should have did for Halloween, obviously. No.
Oh, man.
Funnily enough, about that game, I heard, this is completely tangential, speedrunning tech, that a lot of people think that the OC character will be the best character for the speedrun, which is going to be hilarious.
That's actually funny.
And that game eventually is GDQ in like a year. Oh my god. But
that would be actually funny if it turns out the custom character is the one that is the best.
I have a feeling it will be, or there'll be like donation sims. There's like, you want to play as Sonic, Knuckles, Old Sonic, or OC character, and everyone's going to vote for the original character.
OC. You know they're going to come in like with like a clown hat and whatnot and stuff.
They look
ridiculous.
make, like,
the silliest character.
Also, the demo for that game is supposed to be balls bad.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But anyways,
I'm not. Beyond Divinity 2. There are probably some Steam games we could look into.
Yeah, some fun cheap Steam games or something.
There's gotta be something
that I've done multiplayer wise is what's it called? Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time or something like that. Like, you all play 4 different characters and you're trying to pilot this one ship through like space and like restore whatever the story plot point is. Your ship runs on love or some stupid rainbow. But it has 4 cannons, it has like 2 shields, and you have to be able to give it energy to drive, and there's like energy management, but you have to like move within the ship to those little like terminals to control it.
Yeah.
So there's like 6 or 8 terminals, but you only have 1 to 4.
Oh. You know, actually jumping off of that real fast, Tats, Guns of Icarus would actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not.
I have not heard of this.
Have you heard of it, Tats?
And I've seen...
You went robot there for a sec. What'd you see?
Robot, yeah.
I was excited about him saying Guns of Icarus because I had forgotten totally about it. Apparently that made my computer hate me.
It
So.
went...
Yeah, Guns of Icarus was actually it's not a difficult game to play. It's pretty bare bones. Unfortunately, one guy will kind of be the designated driver because they have to be the captain. But that would be a potential game for the future.
Have you guys...
Are the servers still open on it, though? For some reason, I thought they shut them down.
Oh, did they? I don't know. This was an old...
They did. Yeah.
Have you guys ever played a game called... oh my god, what is it now? I had it a second ago. Dungeon Defenders.
Yes.
Dude, Dungeon Defenders, man. We gotta play some Dungeon Defenders eventually. That game was so... It was the most mindless, like, Xbox Live, like, $10 game. It's a tower defense game with horde, like, mechanics. You set up your tower defenses and you level up your characters as RPG aspects, but you can make, like, your traps better, your, like, attacks better, and other stuff. Oh, it is so fun.
There was also, Dungeon Defender 2 came out not too long ago, a couple years, so that could be.
No, Dungeon Defender 2 came out on Steam for June 20th, 2017.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see if I can look it up.
Damn, Dungeon Defenders 1 came out almost 7 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
holy moly.
Wow.
Let's see here. They was released on Steam Early Access so Dungeons & Defender 2 was released on Steam Early Access in 2014, and then eventually became available on PlayStation 4 in 2015. So, but it's now. Oh wow! Okay, so the game was officially released out of Early Access as a fully launched product, and was also released for the Xbox One on June 20, 2017. So technically, the full
it took them forever to make that. Then
it took them a long while. But the
Yeah,
full
it's
final
probably not
product
good.
is now out as of this year. So,
well, if one is like a few dollars on Steam, I'll buy us all a copy of that and we'll play it eventually. It's a fun, dumb little, like, I think I paid like $5 for it on Xbox Live or something. I cannot tell you how many hours me and my buddy sat there and played that game.
Yeah, I have a buddy who we played for a long time on the first one as well.
It's ridiculous. It's like the dumbest, simplest game, but it's so fun. That knot is OP. That's all I gotta say.
There's I gotta tell you this, man. Apparently, Dungeons Defenders 2 is free on Steam at the moment. So.
Oh, really?
That's what we'll do eventually.
The base game is free to play.
We'll work something out with that here soon. We'll find a knot where we can all get together and play that.
Just be stupid.
Exactly. We'll do a test run, if you will, of a new show, a new Let's Play show, announced right here live, a name that I do not yet have.
Let's not call it a Let's Play. Let's call it a Let's Attempt to play. I feel like it could be more.
I think you got the name of it, Meta. P5R attempts to play Dungeons and Dragons.
I think that's more appropriate for us.
I think that's what we're going to go with. So there you have it, the birth of a new show right before your eyes. But yeah, if you guys have games that you think would be fun for us to play, please suggest them in the comments. If you're listening on YouTube, you can add us on one of our social media accounts. I don't know how you comment on iTunes stuff. I don't think you can or anything like that. So that's what you have to do.
Comments, yeah.
Well, here's another one for a thought. Ark.
Oh, Ark, the dinosaur one, right?
Survival game thing.
The dinosaur survival game?
Dinosaur survival?
I think that's what it is.
Is Ark Survival Evolved or hold on.
Yeah, Ark Survival Evolved.
That's the full name, yeah. PS4, but it's also on Steam. I have it on Steam, but I have upgraded my computer since I last played it, so it may not hate it still. So
it is. I think it's currently though selling for like a full budget priced game though.
Oy.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $59.99.
Yeah.
We'll have to find some cheap stuff at first. But yeah. So we're gonna do that eventually. We're gonna do some stuff. We're gonna throw up some Let's Plays of some stuff. We'll probably start out with some games we already have, like For Honor, since Dungeon Defenders 2 is free. Maybe we'll test out some FF15 stuff.
There's definitely stuff in the future that we know for sure we'll be playing.
And definitely that beta. That sweet Monster Hunter beta. When, again, Meta and I end up playing the same class.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I'm going to pick the most edgy thing
that
I can find at the beginning.
I'm not even going to be surprised about that for you.
Oh my god, this is so cute. This has nothing to do with... No one's going to be able to see this. I found a Halloween costume of someone's kid being the Knot from Dungeon Defenders.
Oh, that's adorable.
It's freaking adorable.
All right, I think that on that note, though, I think we know what we should do.
Yeah.
We're going to say the outro now. It's outro time.
This has
been episode 31 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud. Now, topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Be sure to check us out and sling us those game suggestions that you might want to see. Twitter, Podcast5R, Facebook, P5R Podcast, Meta's Got Stream. They've been playing, what have you guys been playing lately?
I've been switching on and off. I've actually been playing with Lily, Fire Emblem Warriors. We've been just kind of doing the history mode stuff and unlocking other shit and just kind of generally progressing the extra stuff. And then on every other day now, I've started to play with my actual Divinity 2 group.
Yep.
We've been playing with them, and we've been showing that. Now it's going to be playing this Saturday, which, I mean, obviously people will be too late to know about.
Go back in time and watch them play Divinity.
Yeah,
2.
just go back in time.
Just
and
go watch the
it,
VOD. Whatever.
Yeah, you could. But that will be definitely a thing. We'll be playing Divinity 2 from now on. Generally using either my Wednesday night or Saturday night streaming night for that kind of thing. So you can definitely check us out one of those nights.
Sweet. They're at twitch.tv/PSOFlow. So check them out. We'll have a general announcement about our attempt to plays here soon.
Yeah,
and
podcast of 5 Rings attempts to play.
Yeah, also we're going to talk about our next monthly module eventually. We're pretty sure we're going to do Pathfinder again. We'll hammer that stuff out. That'll probably be the November episode, so look forward to that. It'll be happening fairly soon. We just got to schedule a date, so check us out on that. And then until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.